Picture Cleopatra. You are probably picturing a beautiful woman on a golden couch, ruining powerful men with a look. Almost none of that came from Egypt. It came from Rome. Nearly everything the world thinks it knows about Cleopatra was written by the men who set out to destroy her. This is who the oldest records actually describe. And this is the woman Rome invented to replace her. Start with the simplest thing we get wrong. Cleopatra was not Egyptian by blood. She was Macedonian Greek, the last ruler of a dynasty founded by a general of Alexander the Great. 300 years before her, she came to the throne young, still in her teens, expected by custom to rule beside a younger brother and to marry him. Almost at once, that arrangement broke into open war. For those 3 centuries, her family ruled Egypt without bothering to learn the Egyptian language. Cleopatra was the first of them who did. By the accounts we have, she spoke many languages and needed no interpreter with the people she ruled. Plutarch says she could speak with Ethiopians, Hebrews, Arabs, Syrians and Parthians, and many others, in their own tongues, turning her speech from one to the next, like an instrument. And she ruled from Alexandria, the intellectual capital of the ancient world. Its library had tried to gather every book ever written, and its lighthouse was counted among the wonders of the age. This was the seat of a working state. She managed Egypt's grain and its coinage, its temples and its taxes, in a kingdom that helped feed the whole Mediterranean. Whatever else she was a capable head of state. She was not remembered by serious writers for her looks. She was remembered for her mind. Plutarch, who was no friend of hers, wrote that her real power was her presence, her wit, and the sound of her voice in conversation. And here is the inconvenient evidence. The coins minted in her own lifetime, with her own face on them, do not show a great beauty. They show a sharp-nosed, strong-jawed ruler who wanted to look like a monarch, not a model. So why do we picture the couch and not the coin? Because of who wrote the story down. Cleopatra left almost no words of her own. Everything vivid we have was written by Romans or by Greeks writing for a Roman world, decades after she was dead. Set against all that Roman prose, what survives in her own hand is almost nothing. A single royal order on papyrus ends with one Greek word that some scholars believe she wrote herself. One word, against shelves written by her enemies. Plutarch was born a lifetime after she died. Cassius Dio wrote more than 200 years later, and the man whose version won was the one with the most reason to lie. To understand the lie, you'd have to understand the danger she posed. Egypt was the richest kingdom in the Mediterranean, and Rome wanted it. Cleopatra's whole reign was a fight to keep her country independent, while Rome swallowed everything around it. And Egypt's grain fed Rome itself. Whoever held Egypt could feed the Roman people or starve them. That made its queen at once too valuable to trust and too dangerous to ignore. Her tool was not seduction. It was alliance with the most powerful men in Rome. When she was in her 20s, locked in a civil war with her own brother, she made an ally of Julius Caesar. When her brother's court drove her out, she did not stay gone. She raised an army on Egypt's eastern frontier and came back to fight for her throne. That is who Caesar actually met. The famous story that she had herself smuggled to him rolled inside a carpet is told by Plutarch. It may be true, but notice what it actually shows. Not helplessness, nerve. With Caesar's backing, she won her throne. She had a son she said was his. For a few years, the Queen of Egypt was tied to the most powerful man in the world. Then, Caesar was murdered in Rome, and the board was swept clean. Into the gap stepped 2 men who would divide the Roman world between them. Mark Antony and Caesar's young heir, Octavian. Cleopatra allied with Antony. In the Roman East, they ruled and campaigned together for years. They had 3 children. To much of Rome, this looked like a Roman general going native, ruled by a foreign queen, and Octavian made sure it looked exactly that way. Then, in a public ceremony in Alexandria, Antony handed Roman-won territories to Cleopatra and to their children, and proclaimed her son Caesarion the true heir of Julius Caesar. To Roman ears, a Roman commander was giving the empire away to a foreign queen. Because Octavian had a problem. He could not simply declare war on a fellow Roman without tearing Rome apart again. So he did not make Antony the enemy. He made Cleopatra the enemy. He fought this war in words long before he fought it with ships, in speeches to the Senate, in rumor, and on the coins that passed through every hand in Rome. He built one picture of her and drove it home. He ran what we would now call a smear campaign. The foreign seductress, the scheming Eastern queen who had bewitched a good Roman and meant to rule Rome from Egypt. He even produced a document he said was Antony's will, and read out the parts that made Antony look like Cleopatra's puppet. The will, he said, asked that Antony be buried beside her in Egypt rather than in Rome, and named their children among his heirs. Whether the document was real or forged, no one could check. It worked. Rome declared war, carefully, on Cleopatra alone. The war was decided at sea, off the coast of Greece, at a place called Actium, in the year 31 before the Common Era. Her squadron and Antony's were pinned against the shore. When a gap opened in the line, her ships caught the wind and ran for open sea, and Antony broke off and followed her. Antony and Cleopatra's fleet was broken. They fled back to Egypt, with the war effectively lost. They reached Egypt, with the war all but decided, and for the better part of a year they waited in Alexandria for the end to come to them. By this point, Cleopatra had shut herself inside her own monument with her treasure. It was word carried out from there that she was already dead that reached Antony. Believing the report, and with Octavian's forces closing on Alexandria, Antony took his own life. And Cleopatra, rather than be paraded through the streets of Rome in chains as a trophy, chose to die a queen. Here the myth hardens into a single image: the asp, the venomous snake pressed to her breast. But the oldest source is careful. Plutarch himself writes that no one really knew how she died. The snake was one story among several. Historians today think a concealed poison is at least as likely. The snake survived because it made the better picture. A beautiful woman, a fatal bite, a foreign queen undone by her own passions. It was the perfect ending for Octavian's version of her. So that is the ending we kept. There was one life Octavian would not spare. Caesarion, the son she said was Caesar's, was hunted down and killed. There could be only one heir to Caesar's name, and Octavian meant to be it. Octavian became Augustus, the first Roman emperor. He wrote the history, or paid the people who did. With her death, 3,000 years of pharaohs came to an end. Egypt would get no new dynasty. It became a province of Rome, a private granary for its emperors. And so the last pharaoh of Egypt, a scholar and a shrewd head of state who held off Rome longer than almost anyone, came down to us as a pretty face on a couch and a snake. Even the Roman writers who hated her granted her courage and a sharp mind. It was the later centuries and the painters who finished the work Octavian began and reduced a head of state to appetite. There is one more thing that should reset how you see her. Cleopatra did not live in the deep age of the pyramids. The Great Pyramid was already more ancient to her than she is to us. She lived closer in time to the first moon landing than to the building of that pyramid. We remember the seductress because Rome needed a seductress. The ruler is still there in the coins and the record if you go looking. That is the difference between history and the story the winners tell. Hindsight moments, true stories, known or not.